Okay, here we go. Christmas has been a long-standing tradition throughout the United States. This same tradition can be observed in the workplace, universities, and most schools across the U.S. However, an Oregon-based news station reports that in Ashland, Oregon, a Christmas tree in an elementary school had been removed by the principal due to a single family's complaint. The family stated that the tree was offensive and made their children, who were students at that school, very uncomfortable. The tree had originally been set up years ago as a place for students to place gifts for needy families in their local community. Although the tree's presence caused distress for a single family, the tree's removal caused even more unrest throughout the United States. Throughout the school community. The removal of the Christmas tree turned out to be but the first of many Christmas time traditions removed from the school as a result of this one complaint. So, fearful of similar complaints, the school board decided to institute policies that prohibit other holiday images like tree ornaments, candy canes, and nativity scenes. And as absurd as it may sound, the school board even decided to prohibit the use of green or red cups, plates, or napkins, being that these colors are traditionally Christmas colors. The board also thought that the making of tree ornaments could be seen as Christmas-centric if the ornaments are clearly designed solely for the purpose of hanging on trees. The board thought a safer alternative would be to design a decoration that could serve as a decoration for a desk and or mantelpiece for those families that do not have Christmas trees. The school district also instituted policies that prohibit Santa or reindeer images, insofar as these images might be seen as affiliated with the Christmas holiday. So the Christian population, as well as the secular population, may find this degree of political correctness absurd and just unnecessary. However, the unfortunate reality is that the instances like the one that occurred at this elementary school are unfolding all across the United States, and it is only a matter of time before all the morals and principles that are firmly grounded in this country are completely eliminated if the politically correct ideology continues to have a great impact on this nation. Hi, my name is Allie, Brenton, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how political correctness has overstepped its boundaries and gone too far in the United States. So, in a topic as broad as political correctness, certain limitations must be set, and this is also due to time constraints as well. So first, this analysis will only be concerning events that have happened between the years 2000 to present day, even though political correctness has been occurring way before this time. Next, this analysis will only be concerning events that have occurred within the United States specifically, even though political correctness can be found anywhere. And lastly, there will be no research in regards to the solution to political correctness because this analysis only recognizes the damages of political correctness. So there's only one term that needs to be defined, and that is political correctness. And this term is best defined as the avoidance of terms of expression or action that are perceived to exclude, marginalize, or insult groups of people that are socially disadvantaged and or discriminated against. And just a little side note, throughout this presentation, I may refer to political correctness in its abbreviated form with just the letters PC, so just so that doesn't confuse you guys. So a little bit of history before we get started. Many people wonder at what point in time the politically correct ideology and the entire debate over tolerance made its way into the world. Historical documents can actually trace the debate over tolerance back past the Greeks in what is known as the realist versus idealist debate. However, the type of political correctness that was in ancient times isn't quite the type of political correctness that is found in the United States. America is dealing with a type of political correctness known as cultural Marxism, which began in 1919, immediately after World War I. Cultural Marxism is a branch of Western Marxism, different from the Marxism-Leninism of the old Soviet Union. Cultural Marxism is more commonly known as multiculturalism or political correctness. So the Marxist theory had predicted that in the event of a large-scale European war, the working class throughout Europe would rise up and overthrow capitalism and create communism. However, when a war broke out in 1914, that prediction did not come to pass. However, when a war did break out in Russia in 1917, that prediction did come to pass to a certain extent, but generally speaking, the European countries did not support this idea of Marxism. So two Marxist theorists, Antonio Gramsci and George Lucas, proposed the reason as to why people did not embrace the Marxist theory. And they believed that Western culture and the Christian religion had blinded the working class to its true Marxist class interest. They also believed that communism was not possible until both Western culture and the Christian religion could be destroyed. Lucas believed that if he could destroy the West's traditional sexual morals that he would have taken a major step into destroying Western culture in its entirety. So due to this ideology, in 1923, a group of German Marxists established the Institute of Social Research at Frankfurt University. And this institute really became the creator and promoter of cultural Marxism. So the members of this institute argued that culture was not just a part of what Marx called society's superstructure, but rather an independent and very important variable within a society. They knew that the working class would not be in favor of leading a Marxist revolution. So Herbert Marcuse, a member of this institute, said that a coalition of Blacks, feminist women, homosexuals, and the students would lead this revolution. However, when Hitler came into power in 1933 in Germany, the Frankfurt School fled and reestablished in New York City, which is obviously in the United States. So cultural Marxism immediately started to destroy the US and was renamed the critical theory, which is a theory that criticizes every traditional institution in order to destroy the Western ideology. This theory developed a series of prejudice, which states that anyone who believes in traditional Western culture is prejudiced, racist, sexist, fascist, and is also mentally ill. After World War II ended, most of the members of Frankfurt University went back to Germany, except for one person, and that person was Herbert Marcuse. And he felt like it was his job to take the highly abstract works of Frankfurt schools and put them in the language of college students in a way that they could read and understand. Marcuse also advocated for what he called liberating tolerance, which is obviously the tolerance for all ideas. And he, in the 1960s, he became the leader of the New Left, and he injected the cultural Marxism into the baby boom generation to the point where it is now America's state ideology, known as multiculturalism or political correctness. So we see political correctness in three main areas. First, political correctness negatively impacts education. Secondly, this ideology is severely damaging religion. And lastly, this philosophy negatively affects the political realm. So first, it's negatively impacting education. The students and teachers have become constrained due to the many limitations placed on the teacher material and the type of language that can be voiced as a result of various social boundaries imposed on the students. And due to this happening, the opportunity for students to learn is often missed. Katie Mayberry states, "College is the time for students to be exposed to various viewpoints and lifestyles so they can learn about themselves and form their own opinions." So if people go their entire lives and never come across anyone that disagrees with them, then they will not learn to defend what they believe. And it also eliminates the opportunity for people to be exposed to differing points of view, and obviously differing opinions will present new things to a person. So what we are seeing in America's education system is that they have started to pull certain types of teaching out of the curriculum for fear that that material may cause someone to get offended. Even though the discontinuation of certain books and parts of history could avoid some unnecessary tension, neglecting this important and educational material can greatly affect a person's viewpoint about a certain topic. So for instance, if they don't know everything that happened in a certain part of history, the opinion that they formed may not be entirely their own. So this leads into a statement made by Don Clausen. He says, "It seems that the various cultures and religions of the education system are getting more power to control the curriculum and inject their views rather than truly promote freedom of academic endeavors." Political correctness also encourages the pursuit of conformity within the education setting. The politically correct ideology seems to silence more of the right-wing ideology than the left-wing. If we look back at the history of political correctness, the founders of this philosophy designed it specifically to attack traditional Western cultural points of view, like capitalism, individualism, biblical morals, and so on, which are all beliefs that tend to align closely with the right-wing ideology. So the same issue is very evident within the classroom setting. In fact, 3 professors of North Carolina University surveyed undergraduates to get a sense of the campus climate. So as results of this survey coming from more than 1,000 students enrolled at this university, this obviously can't be applied to every single campus across the country. However, it does surface some politically correct ideology at work on American college campuses. According to this survey, 68% of conservatives have kept an opinion to themselves in the classroom, even though the opinion was directly related to the class. The reason for the students self-censoring was because the students were worried of the potential consequences that can come from voicing their opinion, as compared to the 49% of moderates and the 24% of liberals feeling the need to self-censor in this way. So it is very evident in the statistic that the freedom to voice one's opinion greatly depends on which side of the political spectrum an individual falls on. Most people who advocate for political correctness tend to fall on more of the left side of politics because left-wing ideology is the foundation of the PC philosophy. The right-wing advocates refrain from voicing some of their opinions in a classroom setting for fear of being judged or negatively labeled. This creates a very tense environment for all schools, and if some students feel as if they are not allowed to voice an opinion that is contrary to majority opinion, political correctness is not accepting all ideas as equal in value. So the advocates for political correctness may claim that this philosophy creates a safer and better working environment for students. Kevin Pony states that the overhearing of ethnic slurs and exposure to homophobic epithets and other views that might be found offensive increases dehumanization and physical distancing from targeted individuals. Advocates for political correctness believe that in order to make targeted groups feel welcome, political correctness is the right way to go about it. They believe that the overall goal is to create an equal and safe environment for all students, especially the students that are more susceptible to hate speech. In response, Robert Brenton says, suppressing speech and ideas by imposing a political orthodoxy destroys candor and hampers students in working through their own ideas and disagreements, and also undermines the ability of students to understand one another. So no matter how much political correctness tries to eliminate hate speech, hateful individuals are always going to exist, especially in a school setting. Discrimination exists on all campuses all over the United States. And this is a prime opportunity for people to teach students to learn to face people that disagree with them, not run and hide from them. Because if we teach them to run and hide from people that disagree with them, we're really not doing them any favors. Second point is that it negatively impacts religion. So the strength of political correctness continues to redefine religious precepts as acts of discrimination or hate speech, and that is obstructing freedom of conscience. PC culture has become very evident within the church, thus altering the religion with politically correct values. The root words of church refer to church as a collective body of individual believers, yet now society tends to want to view the church as more of a what and not a who. PC culture is modifying the church in hopes of achieving a more tolerant and open environment instead of letting the church remain true to its Christian values. According to theologian and pastor Wayne Jackson, he says, it is no surprise that the distortion of the word church in America reflects the dynamics and influence of secular culture and PC culture. An example of PC culture within the church is the current endorsement of homosexual and lesbian unions within some of the historic Protestant sects, and increasing so within the Church of Christ. Homosexual and lesbian lifestyles are considered an abomination according to the Bible. However, the current injection of politically correct ideology is now commanding the church to view acts like homosexuality as fashionable. Beliefs and acts that were once forbidden in the church are now becoming the very center of it. PC culture is now giving the secular world a false view of the church, rather than letting the church sustain the true nature of biblical values that should be taught through the church. So, the advocates for political correctness believe that this philosophy will create a more peaceful and safe culture for people to live in. According to James Sloan, a U.S. congressman, he says, it is my belief that those supporting so-called religious liberty have chosen religion as the battleground for a parallel war for discrimination today. Later, Sloan states that Christians tend to want to justify their own lives and their discriminatory practices through their religious faith. PC culture claims that people use religion to discriminate and marginalize people with homosexual tendencies, gender dysphoria, and so on. They believe that the United States is supposed to be a place or a country about acceptance throughout all aspects of life, including religion. However, I would like to say that I think they are completely missing the point of religious freedom. The beauty of religious freedom is that an individual can believe in practicing a certain religion regardless if it offends someone. Kathy DiCarlo states, religious freedom is more than the freedom to worship at a synagogue, church, or mosque. It means people shouldn't have to go against their own core values and beliefs in order to conform to culture or the government. PC culture wants to eradicate religion, more specifically, the Christian religion from the US. All religions are discriminatory to some sense or to some extent because there are certain principles and rules that one must abide by to become a part of that faith. PC advocates claim that religion is discriminatory and should conform to culture. However, what they're not understanding is that the PC ideology is then promoting a religion of its own, known as secularism or relativism, which is the belief that no religion is truth. So my last point is that it negatively impacts the political realm. Political correctness affects the direction of policies made by the government. One of the many examples is in the military and how PC culture is driving most of their decisions. James Hasten, who served under the Obama administration while he was in the military, he states that the Obama administration focused more on accomplishing stated social goals versus simply focusing on the military's sole job, which is to fight and win wars. He also said that they spent so much time doing things that had nothing to do with their actual job, whether it be your equal opportunity training, implicit bias training, or PowerPoint training on all kinds of things. This is a perfect example of social demands superseding the more important goal. Soldiers' preparation no longer seems to be the primary goal. So due to political correctness, the proper training of soldiers is not as high a priority as social equality. So what we're seeing is not only does political correctness have the power to alter the direction of policies, but political correctness also has the power to alter the priorities of the US military. Granted, equality is beneficial to some extent in the military, but as Hasten pointed out, that is not the military's sole job or primary goal. Another example is the affirmative action program. And according to Richard Sanders, affirmative action has become a political lightning rod and one of the most divisive social policies. So while the affirmative action program has good intentions, it has completely lost its way over the years. Affirmative action is a program that would allow for an underqualified individual to be accepted at the expense of a qualified individual simply because of minority status. So people become more concerned about quotas than the actual qualifications of an individual. An individual's ethnicity, gender, or other social identifiers should have no impact on whether that individual gets a job or gets admitted into that university. PC culture is affecting people's future in the workforce and educational areas, and this policy is creating way more problems than it is solving them. So advocates of political correctness may claim that political correctness has made it possible to establish laws that now protect traditionally underrepresented groups, blatant discrimination in hiring and promotion, and political correctness has reset the standards for civility and respect in people's day-to-day interactions. In response, despite the obvious progress America has made over the past decades, political correctness is a double-edged sword. According to Robin Ely, while it has helped many traditionally underrepresented employees to experience their work as more inclusive, the PC rulebook hinders employees' ability to develop a relationship across potentially divisive group differences. So while political correctness has seemingly beneficial characteristics, like I said before, political correctness ends up creating way more problems and way more division than it is creating unity. In conclusion, I have talked to you about how political correctness negatively impacts education, damages religion, and negatively influences politics. I'm going to leave you with a quote made by George Carlin, an American stand-up comedian, actor, author, and social critic. He said, "Political correctness is America's newest form of tolerance, and it's especially pernicious because it becomes disguised as tolerance. It presents itself as fairness, yet attempts to restrict and control people's language with strict codes and rigid rules. I'm not sure that's the way to fight discrimination. I'm not sure silencing people or forcing them to alter their speech is the best method for solving problems that go much deeper." Thank you. Any questions?
Allie, excellent. First of all, I think the changes you've made in the structure, I think really played out nicely. The shifts we made in the paper. Yours is a very interesting take on the whole political correctness argument than the typical one that I've heard. I think you put the historical perspective of the original intent, and when you put that in this argument, it changes the entire discussion, I think. And for that, you're to be commended. You did an excellent job, not just in the presentation. I'm sincerely impressed with the amount of research and how you contextualize the research. So good job.
Thank you.
And all the way through, Allie, ever since this has begun back in January, you have had it seemed as though you've had a specific goal in mind, and you've gone for it. I mean, your hard work has really paid off today. This is really an outstanding presentation. I do have a question. One of the things that you mentioned was the military forces during the Obama administration and the goals that were set. I'm curious, do you know, did you check into any research as to, did that military focus change when the current administration came into office?
I didn't go specifically, I didn't really contrast, the Obama administration versus the current administration.
Right.
But I would assume that I'm not saying that the military now is completely thrown social equality out the window, but I am saying that I think they're kind of shifting the focus of the military back towards the actual preparation of our soldiers, rather than, worrying about social equality and if everybody's getting treated equal all the time. Because that's a good idea to have, but at the same time, that's not the primary thing to worry about.
All right. Thank you.
Allie, let me say congratulations. You did an awesome job. I could tell you were very well prepared. This just seemed natural. You just stood up there, you just naturally talked, and it was very pulled together and well done. I was very interested in your topic. I've done some reading just recently on the critical theory and the whole development of that through the 30s and the 40s and the 60s and things like that. So it was interesting that you brought that into your presentation, because I've just been thinking about those things and reading about that. So very well done. Let me ask you this: why did you pick this topic? Why is it something that just is interesting to you, or what?
Well, I think the main reason why I picked it is because it is very, very applicable, and you can really see it, especially in today's time that we're in, current time. And I think that you see it everywhere, and people don't really understand that this is the reason why certain groups of people are just so victimized, feel like they're so victimized all the time. And we're creating a country that is just kind of thriving off of victimization, and that is going to, if we keep doing this, then in the future it's going to have a great impact on the way people just think and everything. So yeah.
Right. Good. So when you go to A&M, are you going to be one of the 68% who doesn't say anything, or are you going to be one of those that speaks up and voices your opinion and your beliefs and your ideals?
Yeah, I'll probably speak up and voice my opinions, because I actually defend what I believe. So
yes, you can. You'll do a good job.
And Allie knows this simply because she's in the same class, but what you guys probably don't realize is how several of these thesis projects this year kind of dovetail into another. This kind of feeds right into Matthews, which kind of takes this and goes one step further. And all of this particular senior class, they've kind of come at a very big argument in many different perspectives, and this being one of them. And I appreciate the fact, Allie, that you kind of hit this from a different perspective. One of the things that I found, these theoretical type arguments are very difficult to get your arms around. It's really hard, as we've kind of talked about that. You had the North Carolina study, but other than that, most everything was, obviously had to be qualitative evidence. Did you have trouble finding actual empirical evidence and statistics that kind of fit into this argument?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot harder because this is obviously, like you said, it's a presentation about a theory and just a, ideology. And you can't really, measure an ideology. You can only measure the effects of it. So I think that, yeah, it was very hard for me to find, the exact, the right statistic that actually fed into my paper really well. And
Yeah.
obviously there were statistics that, said, but set like kind of backed up what I was saying, but they more came it from not in a school setting, but rather, a Democratic Republican type thing. So yeah.
Well, to that end, did you find it particularly difficult to get this whole thing framed, to get your arms around this thing, because there just wasn't a lot of strong empirical evidence out there?
Well, yeah, and I think another thing too, it's like such a broad topic. I mean, I could sit here and talk for 2 hours about, everything and all the effects about political correctness. But I think that, yeah, it was hard to find, good, evidence that actually kind of backed up what I was saying. And so, yeah, I think it was hard at some points, but overall, it was just,
Good job.
Hi, Allie. This is Miss Knight. I have a question for you. I usually ask more of an application question of my
Mhm.
seniors. So what do you think that you or I or school or whatever group it is can do to inspire students that are situated like you, about to launch off into college and get sit under the teaching of these PC professors? What can we do to let them know it's coming, prepare them to be strong, that kind of thing?
Well, I think the main thing is don't feel like you have to conform to the majority opinion, because a lot of people, they feel like it's a lot of peer pressure because they think that, if they're sitting in a classroom full of people that 80% of them have, the exact same opinion and you're contrary to that. And especially if it's like tends to be a more right wing, opinion about something and not as, liberal, I think that they could receive, a lot of hate and could be, labeled, racist or anything like that. So I just think the main thing is do not feel like you have to conform to culture, because that is what a lot of people are promoting now, that you have to conform. And that's, yeah, so.
Awesome. I know you will do well. Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, if nobody else has anything, Allie, it's a done deal now. Good job.
Okay.
That's an excellent way to end the year. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, we'll check everybody later.
All right.